I was standing at my bedroom door with my suitcase packed, 6 hours from boarding a flight to Paris, when my phone buzzed with a message that would change everything. My favorite blue cotton travel shirt lay folded on top, the one I had planned to wear to that little bistro near the Louvre my daughter Lindsay had found. The weather, a TP, showed sunny skies across Europe, perfect for the walking tour I had spent weeks researching and printing out. My carry-on sat ready by the door, tickets to Charles de Gaulle tucked safely in the outer pocket next to my passport. I had been humming Come Fly With Me while deciding between my brown leather shoes and the comfortable walking sneakers. The excitement I felt was the kind that makes your hands a little unsteady, that nervous energy before an adventure you have been dreaming about for years. The phone buzzed again. Lindsay's name lit up the screen. I set D on the sweater I had been folding and picked up my phone, expecting last-minute flight details or a reminder about our meeting time at the airport. Instead, 8 words appeared that made my blood argue. And cold, you're not coming with us to Europe. My husband thinks it is better if this vacation stays family only. I read it once, then twice, then a third time, my thumb hovering over the screen like the words might rearrange themselves into something that made sense. Family only, the phrase echoed in my mind like a bad dream. I was her father. I had planned this trip, bought the tickets, mapped out every museum and restaurant during countless late nights at my kitchen table. What did family only mean when you were talking to your own father? I sat down heavily on the edge of my bed, the half-packed suitcase still open beside me like a broken promise. My hands trembled slightly as I typed back the only response I could manage through the shock. Okay, ... The weight of disappointment settled into my chest like a stone. I looked around my bedroom at everything I had prepared. Travel-sized toiletries lined up on my dresser, guidebooks with yellow sticky notes marking places we had planned to visit together. The new camera I had bought specifically for this trip still in its box with the receipt dated 3 weeks ago. I stood up and closed the suitcase case with slow, deliberate movements. Each click of the latches sounded final in the quiet house. Then I called the airline, listening to hold music while I waited to cancel my ticket. The customer service representative was sympathetic but efficient. I am sorry to hear about your change of plans, Mr. Owens, she said. I wondered if she could hear the disappointment in my voice, the way it cracked slightly when I confirmed yes, just the one ticket, just mine. Afterward, I sat in my living room staring at the travel brochures scattered across my coffee table. The house felt emptier than usual, quiet in a way that made my ears ring outside. Mrs. Peterson's dog barked at something in the distance, the sound sharp against the suburban stillness. I picked up a closed SY pamphlet about Roman architecture and set it down on the end table. My hands moved without purpose, rearranging papers that did not need rearranging, straightening magazines that were already straight. Somewhere in the back of my mind, a memory surfaced unbidden. Margaret's funeral 23 years ago. Lindsay was only 12. Her small hand gripping mine so tight it hurt. I remember kneeling down beside her after the service, both of us still in our black clothes, and making a promise. It is just you and me now, sweetheart, I had said, that I will always be here for you, always, and she had looked up at me with those tear-filled eyes and said, "I will always be here for you too, Daddy. When you are old, I will take care of you. I promise." I had raised her alone after that, turned down dates, turned down a chance to relocate to Denver for a better position, turned down everything that might take my attention away from being both mother and father to my little girl. Every decision for 16 years had been about making sure Lindsay had everything she needed. And now, sitting in my living room with canceled plane tickets and an empty suitcase, I wondered when exactly I had stopped being family. The evening crept in through my windows, shadows lengthening across the floor. I did not turn on the lights. Somewhere in the growing darkness, I realized that this moment, this rejection, was not really about a vacation at all. It was about something much bigger, something I had been too blind to see. But I did not know yet that the worst part was still to come. I did not know that in just a few hours I would discover exactly how little I meant to the daughter I had sacrificed everything for. Evening settled over my house like a blanket I could not shake off. I had moved through the hours like a ghost, leaving my dinner dishes in the sink instead of washing them immediately like I always did. The television murmured from the living room, some evening news program I was not really watching. My mind kept circling back to those 8 words. Family only. I picked up my phone and no penny. Facebook, looking for any kind of distraction from the hollow feeling in my chest. I scrolled past Mrs. Johnson's cat photos, recipe shares from my book club, political posts I had no energy to read. The familiar blue glow was oddly comforting in the growing darkness of my living room. Then I saw it. Todd's parents standing in front of the Eiffel Tower, Robert and Patricia, both of THM, grinning at the camera with that satisfied look of tourists who had found the perfect photo opportunity. The caption read, "Beginning of the best family vacation ever." The timestamp showed 2 hours ago. My thumb froze above the screen. Maybe they had taken a separate trip. Maybe this was an old photo they just decided to share. My heart began beating faster as I clicked on Patrick's profile to see more. There it was. Same location, same time, but this photo included 4 people. Robert and Patricia, Todd and Lindsay, all of them clustered together at a Parisian cafe, wine glasses on the table behind them, catching the golden afternoon light. Lindsay's caption made my stomach drop. "So grateful for family time in the city of light." I counted the facts in the photo with trembling fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4. The word family burned in my mind like a brand. I set the phone down on the coffee table, its screen still glowing with their hot pie faces. I stood up and paced to the kitchen window, looking out at my neighbor's house where warm lights spilled from the windows. Families together for the evening. The betrayal hit me in waves. One stronger than the last. They had not just excluded me, they had replaced me. Todd's parents were there, enjoying the vacation I had planned, walking the streets I had researched, probably eating at the restaurants I had bookmarked. I picked up the phone again, hoping I had misunderstood somehow, but the photos were still there, timestamps still fresh, their smiles still bright and carefree, the 4 of them together in the city I had dreamed of visiting. My hands shook as I dialed Lindsay's number. The international ringtone sounded expensive. each tone a reminder of the distance between us that had nothing to do with miles, 3 rings for rings. Then her voice, bright and cheerful with that echo that comes from being far away. "Hi, Dad," I could hear. Background noise, Todd's voice saying something about finding the metro, street sounds, the bustling atmosphere of a European city I would never see. "I need to understand something," I said without preamble. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, flat and hard. "What's that?" She sounded distracted, probably looking at some monument or shop window. "I saw the photos on Facebook. Todd's parents are there with you." There was a pause, a long one. I heard her say something muffled to Todd, her hand probably covering the phone. Then her voice came back, defensive now. "Dad, we can explain. You said it was family only. What am I then?" Her tone shifted, colder now, like I was being unreasonable for even asking. "Look, Todd said you can be overwhelming. He did not want his vacation ruined by having to worry about you keeping up with everything. His parents are more independent." Overwhelming. The word hit me like a physical blow. I had planned this trip. I had bought the tickets. I had spent hours researching wheelchair-accessible museums because Todd's father has a bad knee. "Ruined," I repeated quietly. "And his parents paid for their own tickets." Lindsay continued, her voice taking on that sharp edge I had heard more and more in recent years. "They do not expect us to take care of them constantly." Constantly, I walked to my home office, phone pressed to my ear, and stood in front of the wall of family photos. My voice was carefully controlled when I spoke. "When have I ever expected you to take care of me? Oh, come on, Dad. Every Sunday dinner, every holiday, you are always there, always hovering." "I am your father," I said slowly. I thought that was what family did. "Well, Todd thinks we need boundaries, and honestly, Dad," she paused, and I could hear Todd laughing about something in the background, completely oblivious to our conversation. "Honestly, you are too needy." The phone felt heavy in my hand. The word needy echoed in my mind, bouncing off the walls of my office where photos of Lindsay's entire life stared back at me. "I understand," I said quietly. We will talk when we get back. Todd wants to discuss some things with you anyway." "Understood." I hung up without saying goodbye. My hand was steady as I set the phone down on my desk. But inside, something fundamental was shifting. I looked at the photos on my wall with new eyes, me teaching Lindsay to ride a bike, her graduation from college where I had sat alone in the crowd because Margaret was gone, her wedding day where I had walked her down the aisle, sleeve with tears streaming down my face. My gaze moved to my filing cabinet where I kept financial records. I pulled open the drawer and started going through folders. The down payment for their house, $80,000 from my retirement fund, car payments I had taken over when Todd lost his first job, credit card bills I had paid when they could not make ends meet, wedding, $30,000 for one day, student loans, $45,000, so Lindsay could graduate debt-free, the vacation fund, the money that had bought their tickets to Europe. I sat at home, uninvited. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. Something I did not check often anymore since I live simply on my pension. There was a notification I had missed earlier, transaction alert. One clicked it, $745. A Bernard restaurant, Paris, France. The timestamp showed it was processed 2 hours ago. Right arrow. On their lunchtime, authorized user, Lindsay Owens. I stared at that screen for a long moment. Then I started scrolling through recent transactions. Hotel charges, shopping boutiques, tourists, tea attractions, all on my card. All while Todd's parents paid their own way and did not expect anyone to take care of them constantly. They had excluded me from their family VACATION ... but they were still using my money to pay for it. And that was when I realized something with perfect, crystalline clarity. This was not just a betrayal, this was an opportunity. Why, to finally see exactly what I meant to them, and more importantly, an opportunity to do something about it. I sat in the quiet of my office, staring at that banking app notification like it was a puzzle I was finally beginning to solve. $745 for one meal. While I had eaten a frozen dinner alone in my kitchen, they were toasting with wine that cost more than my weekly grocery budget. My finger hovered over the screen. I navigated to the card management section, finding my way through menus I had never needed to explore before. Authorized users, sir. He was Lindsay's name in plain black letters, representing years of access I had granted out of love and trust. I was about to click when another notification popped up at the top of my SCR. Transaction approved. $850. Boutique chic, Paris. She was shopping. Right now, while I sat in my dark office processing their betrayal, Lindsay was buying things. My money. Probably something for Todd's mother, some expensive scarf or handbag to thank Patricia for being the kind of family that deserved to be included. That decided it. I clicked on Lindsay's name. A menu appeared with options I had never considered before. Edit user, view transactions, remove user. My finger moved to that last option and tapped it firmly. A confirmation screen appeared. Are you sure you want to remove Lindsay Owens as an authorized user? This action cannot be undone. I selected yes without hesitation. Then I clicked remove immediately. The screen confirmed authorized user access revoked, effective instantly. I set the phone down and waited. It did not take long. 30 minutes later, my phone exploded with an international call. I let it ring 3 times before answering. No longer eager to please or worried about seeming unavailable. What did you do to the card? Lindsay's voice was sharp. No greeting. No pretense of civility. I removed access to my account. Do not give me that, Dad. I tried to pay for lunch, and it was declined. In front of Todd's parents, the waiter had to come back 3 times. It was humiliating. I took a sip of the coffee I had made. Now cold, but I drank it. Anyway, that must have been embarrassing. It was mortifying. You cannot just do that. I need that card. For what? I asked calmly. I thought you did not need me taking care of you constantly. That is completely different. Her voice was getting higher with each word. That shrill tone she got when she was not getting her way. Is it? There was a pause. I could hear muffled conversation in the background. Lindsay's hand covering the phone, but not well enough. I caught fragments. Todd's voice saying something about teaching me a lesson. Lindsay saying, wait, let me handle this. She came back on the line. and her voice had changed. It was colder now, calculated. You know what, Dad, Todd and I have been talking. When we get back, we are looking into care facilities for you. My coffee cup paused halfway to my lips. Care facilities. You are getting older. You obviously cannot handle your finances responsibly. Making impulsive decisions like this, cutting off your own daughter. These are signs of what exactly? Cognitive decline, Dad. Todd and I are worried about you. We have been talking to Todd's parents about it. Actually, they agree that you might need professional care. The cruelty in her tone was breathtaking. The calculated nature of it. And where exactly would I live while in this professional care? Well, obviously we would need to sell your house to pay for it. You do not need all that space anyway. There are some very nice facilities. Shady Oaks has availability. I heard Todd's voice in the background, clearer now. Tell him it is for his own good. Todd says it is for his own good. Lindsay repeated, like I had not just heard and myself. I sat in silence, processing what I was hearing. They wanted to institutionalize me, sell my house. The house I had paid off over 30 years. The house where I had raised Lindsay after Margaret D. The house filled with every memory of our life together. And why? Because I had stopped funding their Parisian shopping spree. Dad, are you listening? I heard every word. Good. So you will restore my card access. Right now, we are not done with our vacation, and this is ridiculous. I looked around my office, at the photos on the walls, at the filing cabinet full of receipts and records, at the deed to my house, safe in the fireproof box where I kept important documents. No, I said quietly. What do you mean, no? I mean no. Enjoy the rest of your family vacation, Lens. Dad, do not you dare hang up on me. Dad. I ended the call and set the phone face down on my desk. My hands were steady. I stood up and walked to my filing cabinet, pulling out the older labeled property documents. Inside were 2 deeds, one for this house, my home, with my name alone on the title, paid in full 15 years ago, and one for the house on Maple Street, the house I had bought for Lindsay and Todd 2 years ago. I pulled it out and spread it across my desk under the lamplight. There it was, clear as day. Owner of record. Gary Michael owns. Sole owner. I remembered the conversation like it was yesterday. We were sitting at my kitchen table, Lindsay and Todd across from me with hopeful faces. Dad, the mortgage company says we will get a better rate if the down payment comes from family. Can you help us? Of course. Sweetie, how much do you need? Well, Lindsay had looked at Todd, who nodded encouragingly. Actually, they say it would be even better if you bought it outright, just temporarily, just until we build up our credit more. Then we will refinance it into our names. Todd had jumped in then. Oh, Ernest and sir, we will pay you back, Gary, monthly payments, just like a mortgage. You will actually make money on the interest. And like a fool, I had believed them. Like a fool, I had ignored that small voice in my head that said something about Todd was not quite right. That voice that noticed how he only called me Gary, never Dad. How he only came around when he needed something. How Lindsay had changed after marrying him, becoming harder, more entitled. I had signed the papers. transferred $80,000 from my retirement account, bought them a house, and then months passed. The promised payments never materialized. Whenever I brought up transferring the deed, there was always an excuse. We are waiting for Todd's promotion. We are waiting until after tax season. We are waiting for the right time. I had let it go because she was my daughter, because I wanted her to be happy, because I was too needy to set boundaries, but the deed was still in my name. The house was legally mine. I sat back in my chair, looking at that document with new eyes. They wanted to sell my house to warehouse me in some facility. They wanted to take everything I had worked for my entire life. Well, maybe it was time they learned what it felt like to lose something. I opened my laptop, the screen glowing to life in the dark office. My pen gears moved across the keyboard with purpose now. Real estate agents, Davenport, Iowa. The search results filled my screen, dozens of options. I scrolled through them carefully, looking for someone I I'd trust, someone who would not ask too many questions, someone professional, and there, 3 results down, I found a name I recognized. Marcus Chen Real Estate. We buy and sell whole. Me's fast. Marcus had sold me both properties. This house 30 years ago, when Margaret and I were newlyweds, and the Maple Street house 2 years ago. He was discreet, efficient, and understood that sometimes family matters required delicate handling. I checked my watch. 8:45 at night, too late to call. But his website had an email contact form. I clicked it and began typing. Marcus, this is Gary Owens. I need to discuss selling the Maple Street property as quickly as possible. Please call me at your earliest convenience. This is time sensitive. I hit send and close the laptop. Tomorrow, things would start moving. Tomorrow, I would take back control of my life. If Lindsay and Todd wanted to play hardball, I would show them what hardball really looked like. My phone rang at 7:30 the next morning. I was already up, had been since 5, drinking coffee and watching the sun rise over Davenport. I had not slept much. My mind kept running through scenarios, possibilities, consequences. Marcus Chen, the name appeared on my screen. Gary, I got your email. Is everything all right? I need to sell the Maple Street property quickly. There was a pause. I could almost hear Marcus choosing his words carefully. The house you bought for Lindsay and Todd. Yes, may I ask why the urgency? It is a family matter, Marcus. I would prefer to keep it simple and professional. Understood. Can you come to my office this morning? We should discuss this in person. 2 hours later, I was sitting across from Marcus in his restored Victorian office on Main Street. He had coffee waiting, the good kind from that local roaster on 2nd Avenue. Marcus was maybe 50, sharp dresser, the kind of man who had built his reputation on discretion and results. He pulled up comparable sales on his computer, turning the screen so we could both see. Market is hot right now. Gary, properties in that neighborhood are moving fast. Based on recent sales, I would estimate 180 to 190,000. I had paid 130,000 2 years ago. The number gave me a GRM satisfaction. What if we price it to move? I asked. What is the fastest we could make this happen? Marcus leaned back in his chair, studying me. How fast are we talking? As soon as possible. The house is currently occupied. Correct, yes. Will Lindsay be handling the showings? Lindsay is in Europe. I have keys. I am the sole owner on the deed. Marcus nodded slowly, understanding, passing across his face. He had been in real estate long enough to read between the lines. If we price it at $179.9 in this market with a cash beer, we could potentially close in a week, maybe less if the beer is motivated. Let us do it. Marcus pulled out listing paperwork. We went through everything methodically. Property inspection schedules, photographer coming tomorrow, list, ink price, commission, closing timelines. His movements were practiced and reassuring. We will need to stage it a bit, he said. Maybe clear some personal items. Make it show ready. That is already being handled, I said. His eyebrow raised slightly, but he did not ask. That was why I liked Marcus. He understood that sometimes clients needed results, not questions. I will start marketing immediately in this market. We could have offers within days. We shook hands. His grip was firm, professional. Walking back to my car, I felt lighter than I had. In days, the first domino was tipping. But there was more to arrange. I sat in my car and searched on my phone. Moving services, Davenport, Iowa. Large corporate companies filled the first results. But I scrolled past them. I needed something local, reliable, discreet. Dave's Honest Moving. Family owned for 15 years for .8 stars. The reviews mention the owner personally handling jobs. I dialed the number. Dave's Moving. This is Dave. The voice was deep, straightforward. No corporate script. I need help moving some belongings tomorrow. It is a time-sensitive situation. What kind of timeline are we talking about? Tomorrow morning, if possible. It is a full house worth of items. Where are we moving from to? I gave him the Maple Street address, YXB, laning that everything needed to go to storage. Storage unit lined up, he asked. I realized I needed to arrange that too. Not yet. I can recommend secure storage on Brady Street. Work with them all the time. Owner's name is Janet. Want their number within minutes? Dave had Janet from Secure Storage on a three-way call. Her voice was warm, efficient. For a full house, you will want at least a 10 by 20 unit, Dave advised. First month paid in advance is $120. Janet added, I will take it. Can someone meet us there tomorrow? Absolutely. Mr. Owens, what time? We finalized details. Dave's truck and two guys would start at 8 a.m. Everything would go to the storage unit. Janet would have it ready and meet us there by noon. What is the address again? Dave asked. I provided the Maple Street address, then added carefully, the residents are out of town. I would prefer to have everything done before they return. Understood family situation. Dave's tone suggested he had navigated these waters before. Something like that. Been there myself, he said quietly. We will be efficient and respectful. After ending the calls, I paid for the storage unit online. $120 charge to my account. I made myself lunch with an appetite I had not felt in days. Everything was falling into place with a precision that felt both satisfying and inevitable. That evening I set my alarm for 6:30 a.m., earlier than my usual retirement schedule. I laid out work clothes for tomorrow, my old jeans and boots from my contracting days before I had become someone who funded other people's dreams instead of building my own. But as I was putting the clothes out, I noticed the bottom drawer of my dresser was slightly open. I started to push it closed, then stopped. There was a corner of something sticking out. Construction paper, faded and old. I pulled the drawer open fully. Inside were things I had saved over the years. Lindsay's school projects, drawings, report cards, and there, right on top, a Father's Day card she had made when she was 8 years old. The construction paper was folded in half, decorated with marker drawings of stick figures, one tall, one small, holding hands. Inside, in her careful child handwriting, it read, D is my hero. You are the best dad in the whole world. I love you infinity. Love, Lindsay. My hands trembled as I set it aside and found more. A Mother's Day card from when she was 10, a year after Margaret died. You are my mom and dead now. Thank you for taking care of me. You are the best. Photographs. Lindsay's first day of kindergarten. Her small hand gripping mine so tight. Looking up at me with complete trust. Her 8th birthday party. Just the two of us because she had not wanted anyone else there. Christmas morning, when she was 13, hugging me and saying, "This is the best Christmas ever." Just us. I sat on the edge of my bed. These artifacts of love spread around me. Was I doing the right thing? She had been a sweet child once, loving and grateful and kind. When had that changed? When had I become a burden? Instead of a father, my phone buzzed. A text message from Lindsay. Hope you are thinking about what we said. Shady Oaks Retirement Home has availability. Todd looked into it. They have a room opening up next month. Here is the website. Attached was a link. I clicked it. Shady Oaks Senior Living Facility. The photos showed sterile hallways, small rooms with hospital beds, elderly people in wheelchairs staring at televisions. Another text came through. They have memory care too. Just in case, I looked at the Father's Day card in my hand, then at my phone, then back at the card. She had made her choice. Now I would make mine. I gathered up all the cards and photos and put them back in the drawer, closed it firmly. The little girl who had made those cards was gone. The woman who'd sent the text was someone else entirely. I plugged my phone into charge, setting it on my nightstand next to a glass of water. In the bathroom mirror, brushing my teeth, I saw someone I barely recognized, someone ready for action, someone who had stopped waiting for permission to take control of his own life. Tomorrow morning, the real work would begin. I set my alarm one more time to be sure. 6:30 a.m. I laid out my old work boots by the door, the leather scuffed and worn from years of construction sites. Tomorrow I would need them again, not to build something this time, but to clear out the wreckage of what I had built and take back what was mine. I arrived at the Apple Street property at 7:45 a.m., 15 minutes early, as was my habit from 30 years of running construction crews. The familiar house looked different to me now, not my daughter's home, but simply a property that needed to be cleared. Abe's moving truck was already parked outside, engine running, exhaust visible in the crisp morning air. Dave emerged from the cab as I pulled up, a sturdy man in his 50s with the practical demeanor of someone who had handled countless family situations without judgment. His two crew members, younger guys in matching company shirts, were already unloading equipment from the back of the truck. Mr. Owens, Dave extended a work-roughened hand. "That is me, ready to get started." "Yes, sir." "Let us take a look at what we are working with." I unlocked the front door with my spare key, the one Lindsay did not know I had kept. The house was silent and still, morning light filtering through the curtains Lindsay had picked out, curtains I had paid for. We walked through, room by room, Dave assessing furniture and boxes with a professional eye, making notes on his clipboard. "This is going to take about 3 hours, maybe, for with the heavy pieces," he said. I pointed out what belonged to Lindsay and Todd, which was everything. The expensive sectional sofa I had bought them last Christmas, $3,500 because Lindsay said it was the only one that matched her vision. Todd's elaborate home office set up with gaming equipment. Another $2,000 for his birthday. "Your daughter has good taste," one of the younger crew members said, admiring the furniture. "Yes," I replied quietly, "expensive taste." The crew started in the bedrooms, wrapping and labeling with systematic care. Dave insisted I just supervise, something about liability and insurance. But I waved him off. "I am 68, not 88, I told him, "and I built houses for 30 years. I think I can carry a box." He grinned at that. "Yes, sir." Soon I was carrying boxes labeled Lindsay's books and Todd's sports equipment, feeling a strange satisfaction as seeing their possessions being packed away so methodically. Each box represented something I had provided, something they had accepted without gratitude. In the master bedroom, I opened Todd's desk drawer low, looking for any loose items that needed packing. Instead, I found credit card statements, recent ones, from the last 3 months. I should not have looked, but I did. May statement to thou. Sand $500 at an upscale steakhouse, $1,800 for golf clubs, a $1,200 watch. June statement. $3,000 at a resort in the Ozarks, $2,000 for a new mountain bike. July statement. $4,000 in various luxury purchases. These were the same months Todd had texted me saying, "Hey Gary, things are tight this month. See how you help with the electric bill." I had sent him to $100 twice. "You okay, Mr. Owens?" Dave appeared in the doorway. I folded the statements and put them in my pocket. "Just fine. Keep going." In Lindsay's walk-in closet, I found designer handbags still with tags attached. $600, $800, $1,200 for one purse, while she had called me crying about how they could barely afford groceries. The crew moved to the living room. I walked into what Lindsay had optimistically called the future nursery. Baby furniture sat assembled in the corner, a crib I had put together myself 2 years ago, my back aching for days afterward. A changing table, a rocking chair where Lindsay said she would read to my future grandchildren. "You will be the best grandpa," she had said, hugging me tight. "Our kids are going to love you so much." That was 5 years ago. There were no grandchildren, 10 somewhere hollow. The way I had stopped being allowed to ask about it, the one time I had mentioned it last Christmas. Todd had snapped that it was none of my business, and Lindsay had gone silent for 3 weeks. I stood in that room looking at furniture, collecting dust, promises that had faded like old photographs. Mr. Owens, Dave's voice was gentle. "We are ready for this room." I nodded and stepped aside. In the hallway I found their wedding album on a bookshelf. I do not know why I opened it. Maybe I needed to remember when things were still good, when I still believed in the happy ending. I flipped through pages of professionally shot photos. Todd's family was everywhere. His parents featured prominently in every other shot. His siblings, his aunts and uncles, his cousins, group photos with dozens of people from Todd's side. I kept flipping, looking for myself. Page 5. There I was, barely visible at the edge of a photo, half cut off. Age 12. Another distant shot, me standing alone near the bar. Page 23. The only photo where I was centered, me walking Lindsay down the aisle. Even in that photo, the photographer had managed to focus more on Lindsay, my face slightly blurred. 3 photos in an album of over 100 pictures of her wedding day. The wedding I had paid $30,000 for. I had not been invited to the rehearsal dinner. Todd's family only. Lindsay had explained. "You understand, right, Daddy?" I had understood, or I had pretended to. I closed the album and handed it to Dave's crew. By 11:30, we were done. I did one final walk through the empty house. Rooms echoed differently now. My footsteps loud on the bare hardwood floors. Afternoon sunlight streamed through naked windows onto vacant spaces where a life had been lived, a life I had funded but was never really part of. I locked up and pocketed the keys, following the moving truck to secure storage. I watched their belongings disappear into Unit 47B. Everything they owned, everything I had bought them, packed away in a 10 by 20 space. I paid Dave in cash, adding a $200 tip. "Hope everything works out for you, Mr. Owens," he said with genuine warmth. "It already is," I replied. Driving home, my phone rang. Marcus Chen. "Gary, I have incredible news." I pulled over to take the call properly. "We have a serious beer. Already young couple, just relocated to Davenport for work. They saw the listing online this morning and want to see it immediately." That was fast. "I told you the market is hot. They are cash buyers, Gary. No financing contingency. They love the neighborhood and the price point." "When do they want to see it?" "They are on their way. Here now. I am meeting them in 20 minutes. Can you give me authorization to show it?" "You have my keys, Marcus. Show them whatever they need to see. I will call you after 45." Minutes later, Marcus called back. I was sitting in my living room drinking coffee when his name appeared on my screen. "Gary, they want to make an offer already. They love it. It is CT for them. They have a baby on the way. Need to be out of their corporate apartment by the end of the month. They are very motivated." "What is the offer?" $185,000 full asking price, cash, and Gary, they want to close immediately, as in they could sign papers Friday and move in this weekend if possible. I checked my calendar on my wall. Today was Wednesday. Lindsay and Todd were not due back until Saturday afternoon. The timing could not be more perfect. make it happen, Marcus. Whatever you need from me, I will do it. I will have the paperwork ready by tomorrow. Can you come to the title company Friday morning? Say 9 a.m. I will be there. After hanging up, I sat back in my chair and allowed myself a moment of satisfaction. $185,000 minus realtor fees and closing costs. I would walk away with about $170,000, $40,000 more than I had paid, a tidy return on an investment at Hedbrug. HT mean nothing but heartache. But this was not about the money. It had never been about the money. It was about respect, boundaries, teaching a lesson that was long overdue. Friday morning came cold and clear. I arrived at the title company at 8:45, wearing the same work clothes from moving day. The receptionist offered me coffee. While I waited, Marcus arrived right at 9 with the boo. Years, Michael and Sarah Thompson, early 30s, the kind of fresh-faced, hopeful couple that reminded me of Lindsay and Todd before cynicism had taken hold, before entitlement had poisoned Eve. "ERY thing ... Mr. Owens," Sarah said, shaking my hand warmly. "We absolutely love the house. Thank you so much for accepting our offer." Michael nodded enthusiastically. "We have been looking for months. Nothing felt right until we saw this place. It is perfect for starting our family." Sarah's hand unconsciously moved to her belly. "About 6 months along," I gasped. "I am glad. It will go to people who will appreciate it," I said honestly. We signed papers for an hour, my signature firm and decisive on every page. Deed transfer, bill of sale, disclosure forms. Marcus guided us through everything with professional efficiency. The bank transfer confirmation appeared on my phone at 10:32 a.m. $185,000 minus $11,000 fees, net proceeds $173,500. I had turned my gesture of paternal love into a solid business transaction, and somehow it felt exactly right. "Congratulations," Marcus said, shaking my hand. "Smooth transaction. When can we get the keys?" Michael asked. Marcus looked at me. Right now," I said, pulling them from my pocket and handing them to Michael. "The house is yours. Enjoy it." "We will," Sarah said, her eyes actually tearing up a little. "We will fill it with so much love." I believed her, and I hoped that house would finally see the happiness it deserved. Walking to my car, I checked my phone one more time. There was a notification from Lindsay's airline flight status. On time, Val Saturday to PM. Perfect timing indeed. Saturday morning arrived with clear blue skies. I woke before my alarm, made coffee, and sat at my kitchen table watching the clock. Lindsay's flight was scheduled to land at PM. By the time they collected luggage, went through customs, and caught a taxi home, it would be closed at 3:30. I wanted to be there, not to gloat, not to fight, but to witness the exact moment they understood what happened. To be present when consequences finally arrived for people who thought they were immune to them. I arrived at Maple Street at 3:15 and parked across the street, 3 houses down, close enough to see everything, far enough to not be immediately noticed. A U-Haul truck sat in the driveway, back door open. Michael was in the front yard, assembling a swing set, pieces spread across the grass. Sarah was on her knees planting flowers in the garden bed, her pregnant belly making the W. Awkward, but her face happy. A little girl, maybe 4 years old, ran circles around Michael, chattering excitedly about her new room. Michael's mother was helping Sarah with the flowers, the two of them laughing about something. This was what the house had been meant for. Family, real family. Not the hollow performance Lindsay and Todd had staged. At 3:32 A.T. Axie turned onto Maple Street. I sat up straighter, my hand instinctively moving to the envelope in my jacket pocket. Inside was a single piece of paper with the storage unit information. That was all they were getting from me. The taxi pulled up to the curb. Lindsay emerged first, exhausted from travel, her designer sunglasses perched on her head, pulling an expensive rolling suitcase behind her. She looked at the house, then at the U-Haul truck, her expression confused. Todd paid the driver, stepping out with his own luggage. His face shifted from confusion to concern as he processed the scene. Strangers, a moving truck in his driveway. "Excuse me," Todd called out, his voice carrying that entitled edge I had grown to despise. Sarah looked up from her gardening, smile friendly and open. "Yes, what are you doing in our house?" Michael stood up from the swing set, wiping his hands on his jeans. He walked over, his expression polite but puzzled. "Your house. I think there has been a mistake. We just bought this house. We are moving in." Lindsay's suitcase handle dropped from her hand with a clatter. "What?" Todd stepped forward, his face reddening. "That isn't possible. This is our house. We live here." Michael pulled folded papers from his back pocket. "I have the deed right here. We closed yesterday. This is legally our property." The little girl stopped playing and moved closer to her father, sensing tension. Lindsay was looking around wildly now, her eyes scanning the street. That was when she saw my car, saw me sitting in the driver's seat, watching. Our eyes met across 50 feet of suburban street. I opened my car door and stepped out. "Dad." Her voice was small at first, disbelieving, then louder, sharper. "Dad, what is going on here? Why are there strangers in our house?" I walked calmly toward the scene, my footsteps steady on the pavement. Michael and Sarah exchanged worried glances. Sarah's hand moved protectively to her belly. "Sir, I do not know who you are," Todd said to Michael, his voice getting louder. "But you need to move your belongings out immediately. This is our home." Michael held up his paper. "Work again. I have all the documentation right here. The title is clear. Gary Owens sold us this property." "Gary?" Todd spun toward me, his face contorted with rage and confusion. "What the hell did you do?" Sarah's voice was small but determined. "Maybe we should call the police." I stepped forward, my voice carrying the calm authority I had learned managing construction crews for 3 decades. "That will not be necessary." Lindsay's tone turned demanding, that familiar shriek that had always gotten her what she wanted as a child. "Dad, fix this now. I do not know what kind of confusion this is, but fix it right now." I addressed Michael and Sarah first, my voice gentle. "I apologize for this confusion. Please continue with your move." "This does not concern you." Then I turned to Lindsay and Todd. "The house was sold because it belonged to me." Todd's face a deep red. "What do you mean belonged to you? Check the original deed." It was never transferred to your names. It remained my property, which I sold. Lindsay's voice rose to that pitch that used to make me immediately try to soothe her. You cannot just sell our home. I can sell my property, I replied evenly, which is exactly what I did. This is theft. Todd was practically shouting now, spittle flying from his lips. We will see you. We will take everything you have. With what? Money? I asked calmly. I believe your credit cards were declined in Paris, or did Todd's parents end up covering your expenses? Michael whispered something to Sarah. She nodded and started gathering the little girl, moving toward their front door. Their front door now, please. Go inside, I told them. Enjoy your new home. This is a family matter. Lindsay's voice cracked. Real panic CR. Peeping in now. Where are we supposed to live? Where are our things? I extended the envelope I had been carrying. Todd snatched it from my hand. Tearing it open, with angry fingers, he read aloud, his voice dripping with disbelief. Secure storage, Unit 47B, Brady Street. First month paid, storage. Lindsay's voice was small now, shocked. You put our life in storage. I preserved everything carefully. Your belongings are safe. First month's rent is paid. After that, you will need to make your own arrangements. Todd crumpled the paper in his fist. This is insane. You cannot do this to family. The word family hung in the air like a grenade. Family, I repeated quietly. Family does not exclude fathers from family vacations. That was completely different, Lindsay said, but her voice was weak now, is it? I looked at her, really looked at her. When did I stop being family, Lindsay? When did I become just a bank account, too? Drain? Todd stepped closer, trying to use his height to intimidate me. We will contest this. We will fight you in court. We will prove you are incompetent. The sale is legal. The property was mine. You have no case. My lawyer has already reviewed everything. Lindsay's face changed then. The anger dropped away, replaced by something calculated. Her voice went soft, tears forming in her eyes. The performance I had seen 1,000 times. Daddy, her voice broke on the word. How could you do this to me? After everything we have been through together, she stepped closer, her hand reaching for mine. After Mom died, it was just us, you and me. You promised you would always take care of me. The tears were real now, sliding down her cheeks. I am your little girl. I know I made mistakes, but you are all the family I have. Please, please do not do this. For a moment, just a moment, I felt my resolve waver. This was my daughter. The little girl I had raised alone, the child I had promised Margaret I would always protect. Todd's voice came from behind her, quiet but not quiet enough. Is it working? Lindsay's eyes widened. She had forgotten. I could hear. Keep going, Todd whispered. He is softening. And just like that, my resolve returned harder than before. I pulled my hand away from Lindsay's grasp. I heard that. I said quietly, Dad, wait. Lindsay started, the tears still flowing, but her voice panicked now. No, I said firmly, no more manipulation, no more lies. You made your choices, Lindsay. You chose Todd's parents over me for your family vacation. You chose to threaten me with a nursing home, and I set a boundary. You chose to see me as a resource instead of a father. We can talk about this, she said desperately. We can work this out. Family works things out. You are right, I said. Family does work things out. But you stopped treating me like family a long time ago. I was used too foolish to see it. Sarah emerged from the house, concern evident on her face. Is everything all right out here? Everything is fine, I said, my voice calm. Turning to her, I added, welcome to the neighborhood. You have a beautiful family. I hope you make wonderful memories in this house. Thank you, she said softly, understanding passing across her face. I looked at Lindsay and T. Had one last time. They stood on the sidewalk, their European luggage still beside them, looking like tourists who had taken a very wrong turn into someone else's life. Goodbye, Lindsay. I walked back to my car with measured steps, my work boot solid on the pavement. Behind me, Todd's voice rose in anger. This is not over. You hear me, old man? This is not over. I opened my car door. The classical music station came on. Automatically, a piano concerto filling the quiet interior. I looked at them one more time through my windshield. Lindsay was crying. Real tears, no W. But whether from rage or genuine hurt, I could not tell any more. Todd had his phone out, probably calling a lawyer. Their expensive luggage sat on the sidewalk like monuments to their ENT. Hit limit. I put the car in drive. Yes, it is, I said quietly to myself, ... and I drove away, leaving them standing in front of a house that was no longer theirs, with lives they would now have to figure out on their own. In my rearview mirror, I saw Lindsay sink down onto her suitcase, her face in her hands. Todd was pacing, gesticulating wildly on his phone. I turned the corner and they disappeared from view. The classical music swelled. My hands were steady on the wheel, and for the first time in years I felt like I could breathe. 1 week passed in relative quiet. I went about my normal routines. Coffee at the diner on Tuesday mornings, grocery shopping on Thursdays, library on Saturdays. But everything felt different now, lighter somehow, like I had been carrying a weight I had not even realized was there until I set it down. The phone calls from Lindsay started on day 3. I let the first 5 go to voicemail. Her messages progressed from angry to desperate to manipulative and back to angry again. I deleted them without listening all the way through. On day 7, I answered. I do not know why. Maybe I needed to hear her voice one more time. Maybe some part of me still hoped she would surprise me with genuine remorse. Dad, her voice was soft, thick with tears. I am so sorry. I said nothing, just listened. You were right about everything, about Todd, about how I have been treating you. I see it now, Daddy. I see how horrible I have been. The tears sounded real. The pain in her voice sounded genuine. Todd has been manipulating me. I did not see it before, but I do now. He has been using me to get to your money. I feel so stupid. My grip on the phone loosened slightly. My heart, traitorous THING, wanted to believe her. I know I do not deserve it, but could we talk, maybe over dinner? Just you and me, like we used to. There was a long pause. I could hear background noise, traffic vibe, or a television. Lindsay, I started, my voice cautious. Then Todd's voice came through, not far from the phone. Distant but clear. Did it work? Is he buying it? There was a sharp intake of wreath from Lindsay. A rustle like she was covering the phone, but too late. Not yet, her whispered response, forgetting I could still hear every word. The line went very quiet. Dad, her voice, came back, panicked now. Dad, wait. That was not what it sounded like. I heard exactly what it was, I said quietly. No, you do not understand. We were just goodbye, Lindsay. Dad, Ace. I hung up, blocked the number, sat in my kitchen with my cold coffee, and felt nothing but a tired kind of relief. She had given me one last gift, the absolute certainty that I had made the right decision. 2 months later, on a Tuesday morning, my doorbell rang while I was reading the paper. A young man in a polo shirt stood on my porch with a clipboard. Gary Owens, that is me. You have been served. He handed me a manila envelope and walked away before I could respond. Inside was a lawsuit. Lindsay Marie Owens and Todd Robert Parker versus Gary Michael Owens. The claims were almost impressive in their creativity. Elder abuse, undue influence, constructive fraud, breach of oral contract. They were suing for the house, damages, and emotional distress. They wanted $300,000. I called Tom Morrison, a lawyer I had worked with years ago on business matters. He came over that afternoon, read through the complaint while I made coffee. Gary, is as frivolous, he said, setting down the papers. You owned the property outright. You had every legal right to sell it. That is what I thought. They claim you promised them the house, that there was an understanding. There was no promise. They asked to use my name for financing, said they would transfer it later. They never did. Do you have that in writing? No. It was family. I trusted them. Tom nodded. That is what they are. Counting on family situations often lack documentation, but the burden of proof is on them. And frankly, they do not have a case 6 weeks late. We sat in a courtroom in downtown Davenport. Lindsay and Todd were there with their lawyer, a young woman who looked fresh out of law school. She presented their case with more enthusiasm than evidence, Your Honor. My clients were promised this home. They relied on that promise. They made life decisions based on it. The judge, a woman in her 60s named Patricia Henderson, looked unimpressed. Do you have any written documentation of this promise? We have testimony from my clients. Hearsay. What else, Your Honor? This is a family matter. Not everything is documented. Judge Henderson turned to Tom. Mr. Morrison. Tom stood, calm and prepared, Your Honor. My client purchased the property in question with his own funds. The deed was always in his name alone. He had every legal right to sell his own property. Furthermore, I would like to enter into evidence these bank records. He presented printouts of every payment I had made to Lindsay and Todd over 5 years, the down payment, the car payments, the credit cards, the cash gifts, $156,000 total. Your Honor, this shows a pattern of extraordinary generosity from Mr. Owens, hardly the behavior of someone engaged in elder abuse. The judge reviewed the documents, looked at Lindsay and Todd over her reading glasses. It appears to me that Mr. Owens was extremely generous with you both, and yet you are here claiming abuse. Todd leaned forward. He manipulated us. He is not mentally competent. Tom presented my medical records, clean bill of health my physical 2 months ago, cognitive function test, scores in the normal range. Judge Henderson had seen enough. Case dismissed. The property was legally owned by Mr. Owens. He had every right to sell it. Furthermore, plaintiffs will pay defendant's attorney fees in the amount of $8,500. Her gavel came down with finality. Lindsay gasped. Todd's face went purple with rage. He stood up so fast his chair fell backward. This is bullshit. You are all corrupt. Mr. Parker, Judge Henderson said coldly, you will sit down and compose yourself, or I will hold you in contempt. Todd stormed out. Lindsay sat frozen, staring at me across the courtroom. For just a moment I saw the little girl she had been, confused and hurt and lost. And she stood and followed Todd out without a word. In the hallway afterward, Tom shook my hand. Clean victory. Gary, they have no grounds for appeal. Thank you, Tom. Go live your life. You have earned it. The local paper ran a small article the next day. Family property dispute resolved in favor of defendant. 3 paragraphs buried on page 7. But in a town like Davenport, news travels in coffee shops and church pews, not newspapers. At the diner that week I overheard conversations. I always thought that son-in-law was trouble, Mr. Henderson said from the booth behind me. Gary Owens worked hard his whole life. Mrs. Chen added he deserved better than that. Some voices were less sympathetic. But family is family, the church secretary said at the hardware store. Seems harsh. I had learned to let other people's opinions roll off me like water. I knew what I knew. I had done what was right. Running into Marcus at that same hardware store, he asked quietly, how are you holding up? Gary, better than I expected, I told him honestly, better than I ever expected. Driving home that afternoon, I pulled into my driveway and sat for a moment. The house was quiet, empty, just me rattling around in 4 bedrooms and too many memories. It was time to change that. I went inside and opened my laptop. Typed 3 RDS into the search bar. Pet adoption Davenport. It was time to fill the silence with something that would actually love me back. The Davenport Animal Shelter sat on the east side of town, a low W brick building with a fenced yard where I could hear dogs barking as I pulled into the parking lot. I had called ahead, told them I was looking for a companion, something calm and good with seniors. The volunteer who greeted me was maybe 25, enthusiastic in that way young people are about causes they believe in. Mr. Owens, I am Jennifer. You called about adopting. The T is right. We have several dogs that might be perfect for you. Let me show you. She walked me past kennels of barking, jumping dogs, energetic puppies that would need more than I could give, anxious rescues that needed experienced handlers. Then we reached the last kennel on the right, and this is Max, a golden retriever, maybe 4 years old, lay calmly on a dog bed. His coat, it was a deep gold, graying slightly around the muzzle. When he saw us, his tail wagged slowly, but he did not jump or bark, just watched with intelligent brown eyes. Max's family is moving overseas. Jennifer explained, military transfer. They were heartbroken to give him up, but they could not take him. He has been with them since he was a puppy. He is great with people. House. At train, loves car rides. Can I meet him? Of course. Jennifer opened the kennel. Max stood, stretched, and walked calmly toward me. I knelt down. my knees protesting slightly, and extended my hand. Axe sniffed it carefully, then stepped closer and laid his head on my knee. The connection was instant and undeniable. "Hello there, boy," I said softly, running my hand over his soft head. Max's tail wagged faster. He leaned into my touch like he had been waiting specifically for me. "I think he likes you," Jennifer said, smiling. "I think he has been waiting for me," I replied. 2 hours later, after paperwork and a $100 adoption fee and a cart full of supplies from the pet store next door, Max was riding shotgun in my car. His head was out the window, ears blowing ba, CK, tongue hanging out in what looked like a smile. We stopped at the park on the way home. I threw a tennis ball and Max brought it back over and over. Patient with my weak throws, we sat on a bench together as the sun started to set, and Max leaned against my leg like he had always been there. "You and me, buddy," I said. "We're going to be just fine." Max looked up at Emmy, and I swear he understood. That first night, Max slept on a dog bed next to my bed, but around 2 in the morning I woke to find him sitting beside me, his head resting on the mattress, watching me. "You can come up," I said. He did not need to be told twice. Max curled up at the foot of my bed, and for the first time in months I was not alone. Over the next week, a new plan started forming. Max and I took long walks through Davenport, past the Mississippi River, through parks I had not visited in years. I found myself thinking about all the places I had wanted to see, all the trips Margaret and I had planned but never taken, all the adventures I had postponed for responsibilities that had never appreciated the sacrifice. I was 68 years old, in decent health with only in the bank from the house sale, and absolutely nothing tying me down anymore. Why not? I started researching online. RV living for seniors, best travel trailers, full-time RV leaf. The articles all said the same thing: freedom, adventure, America waiting to be explored. On Saturday, Max and I drove to Minden. RV sales 40 minutes outside Davenport. The salesman, a friendly guy named Rick, showed us various models. "What are you looking for?" he asked. "Something for one person and a dog. Reliable, comfortable, not too big." He showed me a 25-foot AI or stream, sleek silver exterior, compact but well-designed interior, small kitchen, bathroom with shower, bedroom in back, dinette that converted to extra sleeping space. "Want to test drive it?" Max jumped into the passenger seat before I could answer. Rick laughed. "I think your dog approves." We drove around the lot, then out onto the highway. The Airstream handled smoothly, easier than I expected. Max sat proudly in the passenger seat like he was born for this. "What do you think, boy?" Max barked once. "Yes, I will take it." Paid $45,000 cash FR. Owned the house, sale proceeds. Rick threw in a hitch, installation, and basic accessories. 3 days later, I drove it home, Max riding beside me the whole way. I spent a week preparing, watched YouTube videos on RV living, joined Facebook groups for seniors, planned a Route 66 west to the Rockies, then wherever the road took us. The Route 66 Travelers group met monthly at a campground outside town. I went to one meeting, nervous, Max at my side, found a community of people just like me. Seniors who had decided life was too short to sit still. Frank, 72, had been on the road for 5 years, left my ungrateful kids behind, he said without bitterness. Best decision I ever made. Now they call me. Now they visit when I am somewhere they aunt to see on my terms. Dorothy, 69, had started traveling after her husband passed. I thought my life was over, she said. Turned out it was just beginning. Charlie and Susan, 84 and 71, had sold everything and bought a motor home. We postponed our dreams for 40 years, Charlie said. Raising kids, building careers, being responsible. Now it is our turn. I sat with these strangers who understood, and I realized I was not alone in this. Not in what had happened with Lindsay, not in choosing myself, not in starting over. Departure day came on a clear Thursday morning in late September. I had arranged everything, mail forwarded, utilities minimized. Neighbor Mr. Henderson watching the house. Bills on auto pay. The RV was packed. Camping gear. Max's supplies including a special dog bed for the RV. One photo album, the one with pictures of Lindsay as a child before everything got complicated. My Frank Sinatra collection. The new camera finally coming out of its box. Mrs. Peterson came over as I was doing final checks. You take care of yourself. Gary Owens. And send me postcards. I will. Your daughter does not know what she is missing. I smiled. I know what I am gaining. That is enough. Max and I pulled out of the driveway at 9 a.m. I drove slowly through Davenport, seeing my home meadow, when maybe for the last time, certainly for the last time, as a permanent resident. Past the high school where Lindsay graduated, valedictorian of her class, me cheering louder than anyone. Past St. Anthony's where Margaret's funeral had been, where I had promised to take care of our daughter. Past the coffee house where I had drunk morning coffee for 20 years. Same table, same order. Everything looked smaller now, or maybe I had just grown beyond it. I drove down Maple Street one last time. Michael was in the front yard, pushing a little girl on the swing set he had assembled. Sarah was gardening, another baby in a carrier on her chest. Children's laughter filled the air. I slowed down. Michael looked up and waved. I waved back. He would never know what that house had cost me, but I was glad it had found the family it deserved. The highway stretched west. The sign read Colorado 500 miles. Max had his head out the window, ears flapping in the wind. The radio played Come Fly With Me, Sinatra's voice. Filling the cab, my hand was steady on the wheel. Both of us were finally free. By evening, we reached a scenic overlook in eastern Colorado. Oh, I pulled off, letting the engine cool, and stepped out into air that smelled like pine and possibility. The sunset was painting the Rocky Mountains in shades of orange and purple and gold. I had never taken time to notice before. I set up my new camping chair, opened a beer, and Max settled beside me. A fellow river pulled up nearby, an older man with kind eyes. Beautiful, is not it? He said, gesturing to the sunset. Sure is, I reply. First time I have really seen it. First time traveling. First time living. He nodded like he understood completely. Ma. 10 looked up at me, tail wagging, ready for whatever came next. What do you say, boy, ready for the rest of our lives? He barked once, me too, Max, me too, as the sun dipped below the mountains, painting the sky in colors I had never imagined. I realized something profound. This was not an ending. It was the beginning I had been waiting for all along, sitting there watching the Colorado sunset with Max beside me. I understood something I wish I had learned decades earlier. There is a difference between generosity and enabling, between love and being used, between family and people who tend to share your blood for years. I confused giving with loving. I thought if I provided enough, sacrificed enough, paid for enough, I would earn the devotion I craved. But love is not a transaction. Respect cannot be purchased, and family is not defined by how much you are willing to tolerate. I had enabled Lindsay and Todd's entitlement by never setting boundaries. Every time I said yes when I should have said no, I taught them that my needs did not matter, that I existed to serve them, that there would never be consequences for taking me for granted. The hardest lesson, sometimes the most loving thing you can do, is let people face the results of their own choices, not out of cruelty, but out of respect. Respect for yourself, and paradoxically, respect for them too. By always rescuing Lindsay, I had robbed her of the chance to grow up. If you are watching this and you see yourself in my story, whether you are the giver or the taker, I want you to know something. It is never too late to change, never too late to set boundaries, never too late to reclaim your life and your dignity. I am 68 years old. I just started living on my own terms. Imagine what you could do with whatever time you have left. To those who have stood up for themselves, who have set boundaries with difficult family members, who have chosen SELF respect over keeping the peace, I see you. Your courage matters. You are not selfish. You are not cruel. You are human beings deserving of respect. And to anyone struggling with a similar situation right now, sitting in your house wondering if you are wrong to feel hurt, to feel used, to want more, I will tell you what I wish someone had told me years ago. You are not wrong. Your feelings are valid, and you deserve better. Now, if this story resonated with you, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to John's Revenge Story so you do not miss future stories, and most importantly, share your own experience in the comments below. Have you dealt with entitled family members? How did you handle it? What would you do differently? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And remember, the best revenge is not anger or bitterness. It is living well. It is choosing yourself. It is finding peace. Max and I are proof of that. Thanks for listening to my story. Until next time, this is Gary Owens, reminding you that family is supposed to lift you up, not tear you down. Now, if you will excuse us, we have a whole country to explore.